Welcome to this very special episode of our program Arab Affairs. Today is the birth anniversary of Prophet Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him. And all the Arab and Islamic world are celebrating such a dear occasion to our hearts, where Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet of mercy, was born on that day. And on that occasion, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi greeted the Egyptian people and the Arab and Islamic nations, marking the birth anniversary of Prophet Muhammad, peace and praise be upon him. In a social media post marking the occasion, President Sisi stressed that on this day, the light of prophecy has illuminated all humanity, removing the clouds of ignorance. He also underscored that the Prophet is a unique icon of virtue, calling for the necessity for making this blessed anniversary as a figure to be followed in our life and in the future. Also, in a ceremony organized on Wednesday by the Awqaf Ministry, President Sisi underlined the need of following the role model of Prophet Muhammad in enduring hardships, challenges, and facing adversity with the determination, will, and patience. President Sisi said the Prophet Muhammad was a role model for humanity, adding that his life was dominated by a superior morality. Today we'll be discussing the virtues of Islam, the virtues of Prophet Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him, and how we should be following in his footsteps in order to be able to endure our challenges, the circumstances, the developments that are occurring, and to overcome them in the same good attitude the Prophet, be upon him, was doing during his life. We'll be speaking about that in our episode. Before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick look on the Arab news that took place during this week, and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Fattah al-Sisi said he's looking forward to promoting trade and economic cooperation with Kuwaiti business community and corporations investing in Egypt. The President made these remarks as he received delegation comprising key figures of the Kuwaiti businessman community and members of the Kuwaiti Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The delegation also said they are hoping for more cooperation with Egypt, given its investment opportunities, especially in renewable energy, tourism, construction, agriculture, industry, and healthcare fields. The meeting was attended by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli as well as Minister of Trade and Industry Ahmed Samir. Kuwait's Crown Prince reappointed Sheikh Ahmed Nawaf al-Sabah, the ruling emir's son, as Prime Minister Wednesday after the government's resignation following legislative polls in the Gulf state. A decree issued by Crown Prince Sheikh Mishal al-Ahmed al-Sabah instructed Sheikh Ahmed to nominate cabinet for approval following elections in which opposition members made big gains. Kuwait held early elections on September 29th after the Crown Prince, who has taken over most of Emir's duties, dissolved parliament in a bid to end the standoff. Sheikh Ahmed was first named Prime Minister in July after some opposition MPs staged an open-ended sit-in to press for a new premier. He replaced Sheikh Sabah al-Khair al-Sabah, who resigned in April ahead of a non-cooperation motion in parliament against him. The U.S. military said it carried out an airstrike on Thursday in northern Syria that killed 2 Daesh members, including a leader it named as Abu Hashim al-Amawi. The strike came just hours after a rare U.S. helicopter raid on a government-held village in Syria's northeast killed another Daesh official. As with the helicopter raid, the U.S. military Central Command said initial assessments indicated no civilian casualties, and it said there were no U.S. military casualties. Lebanese House Speaker Nabi Berri has set a new parliament session to elect the head of state on October 13th, just a few weeks before President Michel Aoun's 6-year term ends, though it is not expected to yield results. In the first such session last week, lawmakers failed to elect the president with the majority casting blank ballots. Politicians have voiced concern about no successor being found, warning of even greater institutional deadlock amid a deep financial crisis. Lebanon has been without a fully functioning government since May. A successful candidate would require the votes of 65 lawmakers following the first round of voting. A 6-month-old UN-brokered ceasefire in Yemen's war between Houthi rebels and an Arab-led coalition ended with no word from the rivals on whether it would be extended. The conflict that started in 2014 has left hundreds of thousands dead and created what the United Nations has called the world's worst humanitarian crisis, with malnutrition and disease. The ceasefire has twice been renewed since the 2nd of April.
Right, welcome back. And as we are speaking, we are about today's episode, which is all about the birth anniversary of Prophet Muhammad, peace and praise be upon him, and how those blessed days are marking very important developments in the whole world and require us to look into our developments and circumstances with wisdom and be or try to be able to have to follow in the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad, peace and praise upon him. On Wednesday, the Awqaf Ministry held a ceremony to celebrate such a blessed occasion, on which President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi delivered a speech marking the birth anniversary of Prophet Muhammad and congratulated Egyptians as well as the Arab and Islamic nations on the advent of this holy occasion, wishing peace, security and prosperity for all Muslims around the whole world. Peace and prosperity is what we really need. So before we delve into our discussion, let's first have a quick report and we'll come back for more discussion.
President Fattah al-Sisi asserted that celebrating the birth anniversary of the last prophet and messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a good occasion for contemplating about the essence of his message and following the genuine ethics. Addressing a ceremony on the birth of Prophet Muhammad, the President greeted Egyptians as well as Arab and Islamic nations on the occasion. President al-Sisi noted that one of the most important lessons inspired through the life and actions of Prophet Muhammad is hard work and dedication. Thus, he urged all Muslims to step away from any bad behavior that does not fit with the values and principles of heavenly religions and civilizations, the forefront of which is avoiding rumors which pose a threat to security. In the course of the ceremony, the head of state honored a number of distinguished scholars and preachers over the long path of giving across the past years. In remarks at the ceremony, Al-Azhar Grand Imam Sheikh Ahmed Al-Taib said that amid the many conflicts and crises that the world is now witnessing, the need increases to follow the example of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He affirmed that all peoples worldwide are now in dire need of compassion, a key feature of the personality and ethics of Prophet Muhammad. The Grand Imam also emphasized that the life of Prophet Muhammad, if followed, would be a roadmap of survival to the entire Arab world.
Welcome back, and to highlight such a blessed celebration and to highlight the issue I have with us over the phone, Dr. Hassan Wagir, professor at Al-Azhar University, and good afternoon to you.
في مشكلة. السلام عليكم.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dr. Wagi, you're on air. Can you hear me?
Yes, but the voice, we have some problem with the voice.
Can you hear me well? No?
Hardly I can hear you.
So I'll raise my voice. So
Yes, please do.
yes. So we're speaking here about the birth anniversary of Prophet Muhammad, peace and prayers be upon him, and such blessed days, and how much do we need to follow in the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad in order to be able to confront the coming or our challenges and the coming ones.
Yes. Yeah, I congratulate everyone for this blessed occasion, the birth of the Prophet peace be upon him. And of course, the Prophet Muhammad is being witnessed by many scholars all over the world. One of them is Michael Hart, who wrote this famous book ranking the most important and most influential leaders in the world. And he described the merits of the Prophet, peace be upon him. And the man was sent, the Prophet was sent as a mercy for the entire humanity. He addressed all the people, and he changed his environment from an environment that used to have the conflict, bad social habits. He transformed all of that, and he made great strides in his society when it comes to religious life, social life, and economic life.
Of course. When we speak about this important occasion that we are celebrating today, we have to speak about the life of Prophet Muhammad, what he endured during his days as a messenger to the whole world, and what he endured during delivering his message, and how did he endure that with all patience, and how that reflects, or can we really follow in this footsteps? And let me here take it from another perspective. How do we need to see the virtues of the prophets those days in order to be able to understand how he overcame the challenges, how he endured that with belief and faith, and what or how should we be doing at this upcoming stage?
Yeah, this is very important point you have already raised, because yes, the most important thing is to get the learned lessons. When we are talking about the learned lessons, we are talking about how could we understand our problems, current problems, and to look back and to see how the Prophet, peace be upon him, has dealt with them. You know, he was exposed to unbelievable dose of rumors, unbelievable dose of aggression by many people. And he was so patient, he was so strong, he was so containing. And when we are talking about these qualities, we are supposed to prepare ourselves to be much more containing, much more enduring, much more exposed to anything that is happening, especially in our social media world, where you have diverse opinions, and you have a lot of language crimes being conducted, like libel, slander, defamation, rumors, misinformation, disinformation. And I think if you go back to the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, you can find that he have dealt effectively with all these, with patience, endurance and insistence, and he was so focused to get his message across and to carry the orders of Allah to him, and with a great deal of modesty and tolerance.
If we translate that into deeds, and we're speaking here about, here let me just quote President Sisi in his words to the nation, where he stressed the significance of abiding by the morals and deeds of the Prophet to face challenges through continuing hard work. And he spoke about different issues which is far dangerous for our nation, particularly in such days. Instigating sedition among Muslims, trying to put a kind of sedition that would really make Muslims in such in an illusion, confused. How that reflect on the Muslim world? How can we really avert going into such circumstances, particularly that reflects on our future?
Yes, this is very, very important point you have already raised. I think that when you are talking about sedition and how to deal with sedition and the conflicts created by sedition, I think this the lesson that we should know from the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, is to know how to deal with sedition. The most important procedure, to say, or steps, is that you are not supposed to lend your ear to everything that's being said and take it as a true thing. You have to make sure 100% of what is being disseminated to you, because we have seen people who really make false arguments, fallacious arguments, and when you are talking to them, you say, it is written in the following, in the so-called magazine or document or whatever. And we have to understand that in these days, misinformation and disinformation and war of seditions or war of creating seditions in our area in particular, in all over the world, by the way, in all the world, but in our area in particular, it is targeted. You have to understand that you should not take for granted all what you listen to and what you hear, because here you react in a negative way that really achieves the purpose of this sedition. So one of the most important things to deal with sedition is to not to believe everything is being said, because there is a great deal of campaigns, a great deal of warfare campaigns are being launched against us. And you know, when you are talking about this, through my readings and through my living in the West, I found out that many of the documents, and even not only in the media but also in the academia and in history recording, there are a tendency by some circles, I'm not generalizing of course, because also from the Prophet's tradition is not to generalize and do injustice to others. There are fair-minded people in the West and in the East, so we have to respect that. But again, I have seen a tendency by many circles that really want you to get into despair, that you are good for nothing, that you are not able to stand on your feet, that you have not created a civilization, that some, and even, you know, even the Egyptian civilization with the Great Pyramids, you know, you can find some writings people say some people from outer space created that, not the Egyptians. Well, even when you go to this era, so it is a long, long, long story. But this would invite us to make effective history recording, to make sure that we can debate in the academia the wrongful academic works, and we have to have a very great deal of effort in our media to refute the arguments and the points that are being deliberated, and which is targeting many people, especially the young people, the people who are on the Facebook spending a lot of time on social media, and really this has made them not to contemplate enough, not to read accurately. Many mistakes could happen, so they are easy targets. So it is educational, it is media, and it is history recording, and it is a great deal of effort in all these domains.
Islam has required us to unite in face of our challenges, to unite for our development, to unite in particular, and has called on us to call by peace, by means of peace, and to avoid wars. How necessary are those messages at this very critical stage that we are passing by in our lives?
Yeah, actually, when it comes to this very difficult problem, if I can understand your question correctly, your question is about if Islam has already advised us to be united, why we are not that so united? I am correct.
No, I did not say that.
Oh, so
I just said it requires, the message of Islam is to unite for our good and for our development and for our prosperity. So it's for our security and prosperity. So how is that very much essential at this very critical stage we are passing by?
Yeah, of course, it's very critical and very needed and very important point that you have raised. Yes, we need to be united, and you know, there is a big difference when you are in a united effort is to raise issues for collective interest, not to divert from the collective interest. And I think that when it comes to our critical situation these days, is that in a country like Egypt, we have challenges in the north, in the west, in the east, and in the south. So I believe that there is something good about the Egyptian people, and thank God. Egyptian people, at that moment of the challenges, they are so united, and many powers that really even occupied Egypt in history were not able to dissect this country and to make it sections and cultivated strong traditions. They were not successful in doing that, and this is something that we are proud of as Egyptians, that we kept our country strong, united, and these are the moments of challenge that we really have to be united, all of us, because the dangers that we are facing are unprecedented in our history. So I think the Prophet's seerah, the Prophet's life and learned the lessons from him, yes, is to get united. And when you are getting united, you need also to go about the technicalities of doing that by good collective negotiation, by know how to make good teams. Teams are very important, and in the world today there is something called Tiger Team. Tiger Teams relates to any crisis in any company, but now there are tiger teams who are managing this global crisis that the whole world is suffering from. So I think we have to have our tiger team who really stand for their country, who stand for the unity of their country, who stand for dealing with this crisis, for dealing with understanding the dimensions and the complexities, unbelievable complexities are associated with the crisis that we are facing in our country these days.
I have two more questions here, and
Sure.
here, Dr. Wagih, we're speaking about the virtues of Islam. Part of it was indeed to worship God, but also to build and to work hard for the welfare of our nations. How Islam necessitates working or the hard work for a good Muslim in order to be able to find a good future and build a better future for his, of course, children and generations to come.
Yes, this is another very important point. Many scholars in Islam raise the issue that worshipping, how many in your life, how many minutes, how many days that would constitute worshipping. You have 5 prayers, each prayer has some minutes, and you have the holy month of Ramadan and the Hajj. If you compare the time for worship for these great ceremonies, you will find it constitute little of your entire time. But what we are supposed to do in the rest of the majority of our time is to construct, is to build. This is part of the worship. You know, in Islam you say the students who go to the school or to the university and with the intention to say this is for God. God gives him a great deal of help, and he feels like he is doing worship. Another type of worship. Another type of worship is to work. Is to do. The Prophet, peace be upon him, used to do the commercial things, helping his wife in house affairs, going and buying things, taking care of the animals around him, milking the cows, etc., etc., etc. All of this is Amar al-Kun, to construct, to build, as part of the integrative way of having worshipping activities. Some of them are for ceremonies, and many of them are for life. If you tolerate others, if you are modest enough and forgive others, all of these are acts of worship. So many things you can have your entire day as acts of worship while people are not discovering that you are worship, because this is something between you and God. But if you have the intention to tolerate, to overcome, to construct, and even if you find something that obstructs the road, as the Prophet showed, and you eliminated harm for other people that you don't know, this is an act of worship. So the acts of worship are so many and so many diverse, and so diverse.
Finally, here and briefly, the image of Islam, and how has it become a must for us to correct the right image for the Islamic nations at large and the Islamic world, before the whole world corrects the misled or misleading images that were spread by terrorism, by people who had nothing to do with Islam, and how important is that through the deeds of us, that shows the real image of Islam?
Yeah, I think that you are talking about two tracks here. Two tracks. The track number one is that you have to do whatever you can that would formulate a good image, because image is connected with the original. So you have to have reforming the religious discourse, doing the right thing they are supposed to do. That's one track. But the other track that we should not ignore at all, and let me remember Edward Said, who is a Christian who lived among us, and he left to the United States and became so famous. He wrote a very nice book. It was covering Islam in the American media. And I think his book is very, very seminal and very important about what's happening. When you have a battle disfiguring deliberate certain circles that really deliberately trying to disfigure the image of Islam, you have to have creation. Some people, when it comes to warfare against us, yes, they have enlisted terrorists, they have enlisted extremists, and they directed them in a wrongful direction. So I think this is also an act of outside. And also when we are talking about that, you are talking about so many things. Now I have seen that we have a map now, we have to deal with it. The map that really tried to disfigure the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him, making this weird, ill-founded movies. They moved from that now in the Islamophobic world by trying to mistranslate the Holy Quran. There are a great deal of numbers of mistranslation of the Holy Quran, and we have to stand strong against this. We have to refuse that, and we have to show that to the world, and we have to correct all this, because the Quran has become
very much indeed
the area of battle against us, also by misinformation and disinformation, unfortunately.
Very much indeed. Dr. Hassan Wagee, professor at Al-Azhar University, thank you so much for being with us, and wishing all the Muslims around the whole globe and all the Arab nations a blessed celebration for Prophet Muhammad's birth anniversary, and many thanks for watching.